Hi, welcome to Gotta Ping, a careers podcast you should listen to if you want to grow your career online and offline. Hi, my name is Mei Ping, and I'm a professional career coach and international speaker with more than a decade of experience at some of the biggest companies in the world. To learn more about what I do, visit meiping.com. That's meiping.com. All right, let's jump right into today's episode. Hi everyone, this is Mei Ping and welcome back to a brand new episode on my Gotta Ping podcast, a podcast you should listen to if you are an ambitious corporate professional. So in today's episode, I want to talk about first impressions. Do they matter? How do you create very strong first impressions? And basically how to go about it in a way that it can actually help your professional reputation if you are somebody who is really serious about your corporate career. So now, when we think about first impressions, most of the time we think about the first time we ever meet somebody. So in the case of the fact that if you are a job seeker, you might think that your first impression will be during the interview process, which is usually the beginning of a journey if you are a corporate professional. So today I want to share with you a slightly different perspective, and I'd say this. If you are a job seeker, the first impression that you will ever create will likely be in your resume, because that is the first point of contact. A potential employer will get to know you, get to know who you are, what you can do, and what you can contribute based on what you have written in your resume. So if you think that you need to wait until an interview to make a first impression, that is not necessarily correct. So a lot of times as hiring managers, so in the past, I was also a former hiring manager at an international bank, we do form impressions on candidates and job seekers based on what we see in the resume. And of course, later on in the interview, we will then consolidate that viewpoint also. And nowadays, the fact that everybody's on social media, there's a lot of things going on digitally, professional networking platforms. The other place where you can make a really strong first impression actually is via the activities that you do on a lot of these social networking platforms. So now, I have been on LinkedIn for a very long time, and over the past couple of years, I do see this emerging trend of young professionals in particular wanting to gain visibility, wanting to be known, be visible, personal branding, blah, blah, blah. But what they sometimes don't realize, and perhaps due to lack of knowledge or just maybe ignorant in general, is that they are actually creating a first impression based on what they say and what they do on social media. So if you are that person who says that you are serious about your career, but you are on platforms such as LinkedIn, I don't know, Facebook, Instagram, or maybe a lot of other social media platforms, behaving in a way that is completely different to who you want to present yourself as a professional, then whatever impression that is being created, whatever first impressions or maybe even lasting impressions that is being created, that is really down to you. It is your fault if it doesn't go right, because you may not realize that whatever that we say or do online and offline, so online on professional networking platforms and offline at an interview, at the workplace, right? Even networking events, people are looking at you and trying to understand who you are as a professional. Are you a trustworthy person? Do they see themselves potentially working with you? So the impressions are always being set, and it rolls on and on and on. So just don't think just because your peers and network, or I guess your peers, friends, or colleagues are not on certain platforms, you can behave in a way that is different to your professional reputation. Just recognize this. Professional reputation, online, offline, is the same thing, right? So if you're trying to be this, high value professional offline, but online you're going around making ridiculous comments and basically provoking and creating random content that don't make sense, then don't be alarmed when somebody judges that you are that kind of person. So always think about the impact of what you say and do for the long term. So it might be fun to leave a ridiculous comment, right? To say something ridiculous and silly online, right? But think about it in the long term. Is that actually going to help you, or that is actually going to create a dent in your professional reputation, which will take you way more time to try to rebuild this reputation that you may have single-handedly destroyed, and you may not even realize it, right? So this is not to say that first impressions cannot be replaced. Of course, there are some people, or maybe it's you may not have made the right first impression due to whatever reason. It could be, you don't have resume writing skills, you have poor interview skills, you have poor communication skills, you have poor people skills, and that happens. But recognize that all these, again, these are skills. So skills meaning that you can always improve yourself, but the most important thing is to then recognize that there is going to be an impact on your career. So it's much better to create a positive first impression rather than trying to fix this impression once it is already broken. So if you think about a bowl that is already broken, if you're trying to fix it again, clearly it's going to take more time. It's not impossible, but it's going to take more time versus right at the start, setting a really clear intention of what kind of reputation do you want to have as a professional, right? Nowadays, there are fancier terms calling it personal branding or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's very, very simple. It's down to what is your professional reputation? How do you want people to remember you as a professional, right? You want to remember it as hardworking, intelligent, insightful, creative, adaptable, whatever those words are, you choose it. But just recognize that all the activities that you're doing online and offline will contribute to that. So if you say you want to be one thing, but you're doing something else on the other side, then you are the one who is creating confusion. And maybe I'll give you an example. So if you're a job seeker, right, you say that you want certain kind of roles, right? You're trying to portray yourself as a serious professional and so forth. But in your resume, it's totally not clear. You don't articulate what makes you the best candidate, right? And in the interview, you also are unable to explain that because lack of practice, right? Poor interview skills, whatever that is, then how can you positively influence that impression? Then you're actually leaving it to the hiring manager, the HR recruiter, whoever else to make that impression of you, because you didn't actively take charge of how you want to portray yourself and how you want other people to see you as this professional that you say you are, right? And if you're currently in a full-time job, and as I know, a lot of working professionals, they do struggle at work quite a bit, and based on the comments that I hear from my clients and my students, a lot of them tend to complain that it's not fair, their bosses and their colleagues don't recognize their effort, and they don't recognize that I'm this or that kind of person. So the more important question I leave you with, right, in today's podcast episode is, what are you actually doing that potentially could be creating that impression? What are you doing that is creating that impression, positive or negative, right? Positive or negative. What are you actually doing that is potentially creating that impression that people are looking at you in a certain way? judging you in a certain way. So my point here is this: let's try to meet halfway. While it's a lot easier to, always complain that, oh yeah, this person, it's not fair, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes, right, self-reflection matters also. Potentially, there could be something that we are doing that is creating this kind of impression. So the faster that you can identify what is this thing that you are doing, then the faster that you can actually fix it and eventually improve your work performance or even improve your job search success, right? So I leave you guys for this episode to really ponder on what are you actually doing that is influencing that first or lasting impression that is actually being created. So have a think about it when you go to work next week, or when you're in the process of updating your resume or even interview, and more importantly, at your workplace. So I leave you guys with this thought to ponder in this week's episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Cheers. Thank you for listening to this episode. For more awesome content like this, remember to like and subscribe. Also, head on over to my website, meiping.com, that's meiping.com, and subscribe to my weekly newsletter for more career growth and personal development tips. You can find the links in the description box below. Once again, you're listening to Gotta Ping, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!